Good morning, everyone. Do you have a beautiful stencil and you're just not quite sure what to do to it to make it look spectacular? Today, you're going to want to stay tuned because we're going to take a gorgeous stencil and just make it look phenomenal. I'm Chris Hoy. Thank you for joining us. Lindsay's with me here today to answer your questions and to keep everything running smoothly and flowing well. And I believe this week we do have chat available.
Yep.
So she worked her magic fingers and got it got it working today. It is. I hope everyone's ready for Thanksgiving. It's coming up right around the corner. Got those turkeys thawing out in the fridge and all those casseroles, stuffings, and everything all sitting on the counter ready to go. Looking forward to a great time. So today we have this beautiful stencil, and I was really excited about using it, but when I started to work with it, I was totally overwhelmed with all the little bits and pieces. And I thought, I think we often struggle, and if you're a decorative painter, I think that's especially a concern, that when you look at something, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make this look great. And then you get this blank surface in front of you and the stencil, and it's kind of like, where do I begin? So we're just going to keep it simple and make something really gorgeous and spectacular. And it's not going to take much time, definitely not going to take much talent. And I think you're going to be amazed at how it turns out. We have anyone with us yet today, Lindsay?
We have Susan, who says morning and happy early Turkey Day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Stacy is joining us from Florida.
Ooh, sunny Florida.
And there's some other people, but they're being quiet.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here with us. So we're here a little bit of a dinging.
Hello, Marlene
Hi,
and
Marlene.
Marianne. Welcome.
Hi, Marianne. Got those brushes out and ready to go. I know you guys have stencils, lots of stencils. And I just think this is going to be a really fun project. I think you're going to enjoy it. Hopefully pick up some tips, tricks, and techniques to just ramp them up another level. You know, when we do a project, we want it to look good. You don't want to give it to somebody and think, I made this, and they're going, oh, yeah, thank you. So we're going to bump it up, ramp it up, and make it look fantastic. And you're going to be amazed at how easy it is.
Hello to Sandy and Kim from Connecticut, and Melissa. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, and thank you.
And Anne from Chattanooga.
Oh, wow. All across the country.
Hello and welcome. All right, you ready to flip the camera?
I am. Okay. Is this good, Lindsay?
I mean, it's as on the screen as it's going to get.
Okay, I believe this board is what, 17 inches?
17 3/4, so it's almost 18, yeah.
This is a big stencil, but gosh, isn't it gorgeous? This is the prettiest thing. And when we make our own stencils, and when this one was made, I just, I have to do this. So I took it home. And how long ago did we make it? I've had it for a while, and I wasn't really sure what to do.
I mean, it's not that old. It's maybe 2 months old.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was right at one of the Jen did it, so it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in the store or you see a stencil and you buy it and you think, oh, I'm going to do something really cool with that, and then you're like me, you take it home and sit there and look at it for a month or two. It kind of weighs heavy on your mind. So I decided over the weekend to go ahead and give this one a shot. And I ended up doing it totally different than what my mind envisioned. I thought it'd be so pretty to have all these different colors on it. But I decided after I started putting colors on, and I think you can see some of the remnants of color that I put on here, it was not good. So I decided to go another route, and I took the board and I base coated. I wanted it a dark color, contrast, all about contrast, that pow, that pop, that wow factor. And I base coated it. I didn't want it black, so I used black green. It's a deep earthy green. Still has a little bit of color to it, but it's not so flat black. And I use this 1.5 inch short wash brush, soft bristle. Just remember to do nice long strokes. I did seal it before I began. A good base coat, good prep is like good underwear. It's just always going to work out much better. So if you have a nice base coat, quick multi-purpose sealer, sand it, and then I put 2 coats of the black green on. Now, if you're ever working with a surface, a larger surface, and it starts to, get a little bit of a curve to it, when the paint dries, it shrinks. So just flip it over and put a sealer or a varnish on the backside, straightens right out. When it dries, it will be fine. So even if you're base coating or painting on a heavy watercolor paper, that's a good solution to make it perfectly flat. Okay, I had John cut out a board to match this really pretty shape. I just think this is such a nice stencil. I'm going to line it up, and because this is a big stencil, I definitely am going to tape it down, and just going to use a little bit of painter's tape to anchor that down up at the top and then down here at the bottom. Make sure it's straight. And I eyeballed it. If you're really worried about getting it straight, you could get something, ruler, and kind of measure this little bit of a margin at the top and the bottom. I wanted to make my lettering stand out, so I went with, this is chalk paint, sheepskin. I was going to use bleach sand, but I didn't have any. So for the lettering, I'm going to be using the chalk paint. And chalk paint's just a little bit more heavy bodied than acrylic paint, which doesn't mean anything. It just means it's going to cover a little bit better. I'm using a number 5 spectacular stencil. I did want to ramp it up so I can get a bigger coverage quicker. Loading it up, I don't want the edges to be uneven and bumpy, and so I'm loading my brush. I'm just going to take and wipe the tips off on a paper towel. That gets rid of any excess paint. My stencil brushes are super soft, and using this chalk paint is just going to really ensure that I have nice crisp edges. Because I've just loaded my brush, I'm going to lightly tap it, and I'm using a light color over a dark surface. Okay, when I get to my tape, I don't want to have a real sharp line that I have to blend in. So as I get towards the tape, I'm just going to let it sort of fade out. And that way, when I move the tape and fill that area in, it's not going to be as noticeable. It'll be much easier to blend. And I'm just using that heavy pouncing. First coat is just going to be okay. Second coat is really going to start to look better. Since I have most of the paint, the heavy paint, kind of off the tips of my brush, I'm just going in with a swirl. When I swirl, and there are swirlers and there are pouncers, is one way better than the other? Not really. But if you do want to swirl, keep a very, very light pressure. It's so easy, and if you're a decorative painter, you just want to kind of push harder on the brush. That's not a good solution. With stenciling, you want to keep the paint on the surface, on the stencil, and if you push it real hard, you could shove it under the edges. So that's the one thing that you need to be aware of. And there's a pretty long stretch in between. So if your stencil is a little bit delicate, be aware of that as well. Just kind of common sense. And I'm not too concerned about it being splotchy or uneven. I try to even it out, but I know that second coat's going to really make a big difference. And every time I load, I wipe it on my paper towel. And when the first couple times I pounce, it's very, very tender and gentle and delicate, because it's so easy to get too much paint. And that's probably the one thing. When you say, Lindsay, the one thing that makes stenciling unsuccessful is too much paint on the brush.
That was the thing I had to learn, is
Yeah.
not to be heavy-handed when you load your brush. And wipe it off, wipe the excess off on a paper towel. You don't need much.
Every time.
Mhm.
I will say with the chalk paint, it does, it's a little, because it's heavier bodied, it's not as fussy as acrylic paint.
Yeah, I found it really easy to stencil with the chalk paint. Because, it does act differently, a little differently than standard acrylic paint, but I found it really easy. For me.
And Lindsay's funny because she can touch it and she'll say, oh, that's chalk paint. She can feel.
Yeah, I can feel it.
I don't know what's the feeling, Lindsay, that that you notice.
Chalky.
Chalky.
Especially if it's sanded. If it's sanded, it feels like, to me, it feels like suede almost. I don't know if that makes sense, but once you sand chalk paint, like if you sand it, it feels like suede. I don't know.
It doesn't really have a texture. It just has a feel to it. That's a good description, I think. So if you're interested in chalk paint and you're not sure whether you want to go with chalk paint, I intermix chalk paint with acrylic paint. You cannot mix them together. They are definitely different formulas, but you can, I base coated it with acrylic paint. I'm stenciling it with chalk paint, but when I get to my trees, I'm going to use acrylic paint. So you can switch them back and forth, but not together. So if you're interested in trying the chalk paint, I would recommend just a basic color such as, this is sheepskin. This is a beautiful color. Adirondack white is amazing because it covers so incredibly well. If you ever struggle with a white base coat, it's a perfect solution.
Definitely. Yeah, I know when I speak, well, for Jen too, when we used to do the door hangers, we used that white Adirondack all the time because titanium white is, as great as it takes a lot of coats to cover. So it just sped up the process for us. And then when we do everything else in Americana.
And I've even used the chalk paint to base coat like the Adirondack white and then go over top of it with titanium white. If you want to keep that same consistency and same finish, although I don't think you can tell any difference. Okay, I'm getting low on paint here. Now, I'm going to do my trees a different color. So where did I do with my, right here, my bubble buddy. Okay, this is my little trick for getting in and around places that I don't want a color in. And this, I use these are my painter's pals. I use them every time I paint. I very rarely is there some time that I paint that I don't use the painter's pals. So I want to make sure that I get all these little bubbles, but I don't want to get the tree. So I'm just going to take my painter's pal. I could take tape and kind of mask it off. We're working with kind of a delicate stencil. I don't want to run into the problem of damaging my stencil. Down here, there's a little dot, and I want to get that. So I'm just going to take that hole from my painter's pal or bubble buddy, and I'm just going to stencil that little dot. This is a great way to do those little areas in between easily. You don't have to worry about getting over paint if you're trying to be careful and stay out of a certain area.
Mary Jane says, I have really been liking the chalk more and more the more I use it.
I do think that's a good point, Mary Jane, because when I first use it, I'm going, you hear everybody rave about it, and then you get it, and it's not what we're accustomed to. I wouldn't say so much a learning curve, but it's a different type of paint. So if you're aware of that and don't have a preconceived idea of how it should act, it's just really great stuff. And see how I can go in those little tiny areas, even that little itty bitty star right there. I don't want to get it on the tree trunks. So I'm just going to stencil right over that. And I will say one thing, the chalk paint has a whale of an adherage. Is that a word, adherage?
I mean,
it adheres really well.
you can make it up if you want.
That's a painter's term. We make up all of these painter terms. It adheres to glass, ceramic, terracotta, tin, metal, pretty much every surface. If you are base coating with the chalk paint, you do not need to put a multi-purpose sealer down. It has its own sealer quality. So that will save you a step, which is another reason I like using it. I'm always in a hurry to try to get to the fun part. Okay, I think I can take this away now. Did I miss anything so far, Lindsay?
There's one star up by the
Oh.
left tree.
I always miss something. I always do. Usually when I go back and fill in the bridges, if I do that, and many times I see it after I've even varnished, and I'm going, how did I miss that? Okay, we'll kind of zoom through this a little bit quicker down here. I do try to have some sort of system when I stencil, like top to bottom, left to right. It just keeps it a little smoother, a little easier to keep track of where you are and what still yet needs to be done. Okay. And I think the chalk paint seems to dry a little quicker. I want to do the trees, and I'm going to let that dry just a bit longer. I'll put a coat of paint on the trees. This is celery green, and I think when I painted one up last night, I used, is it sage? That real soft green in the chalk paint?
Might be.
Okay. It's
I'm
pretty.
not as familiar with those colors.
Yeah, they have different names. I don't know why I did that over there. But I'm going to just put a nice base coat on the trees. I should have done the trunks first. But I can do this. Same thing, I don't want to get green into those areas that I don't want green in. Oh, this is going to be pretty. I thought this little fluffy trees were kind of, had a nice shape to them. Because it takes a couple coats, you kind of need to think about what is it when you plan your time so that you're not waiting for one to dry. And don't try to rush it. If it's not dry and you try to move on, you could have a few little issues with the paint lifting. Not that we've ever done that. This is a fun little tree. I wasn't sure I would like this tree when I first did it, but after we work our little decorative magic on it, you're going to be, I think it's pretty cool. I forgot to do the star at the top, Lindsay.
Oh,
I told you I always miss something. Okay. So while the trees are drying, I'm going to move this tape. Let's go up here first because I started here first. And fill in these little empty areas. Okay. And be careful with your stencil. They are very durable, but you can damage them if you're a little too aggressive. The paint is still wet, so I'm putting it on. It's not wet, but it's not hardened. So I put my tape on. I'm just not pressing it down really heavily. And then I'll just go back here and kind of blend this in. And I think by not having that hard stop and start line, when you look at it, it's going to be fine. And we'll do the same thing down here. I'll just take this, remove that tape. Just be aware of that, how delicate that is. Not really delicate, but you can damage it if you're too aggressive. I'm going to give that a minute to dry. And go back to these trees and put one more coat of paint on those. They're pretty dry. When you are stenciling, if you put a light coat on, it takes less time to dry, which makes sense. It's always better to put 2 or even 3 light coats on as opposed to 1 heavy coat. And I know we get impatient, and I know it's so easy to get a little bit in a hurry to move on, but it's so worth it to take your time and make sure you put the paint on smoothly and evenly. It just saves a lot of headache in the long run. It's much easier to put a couple coats on than to go back and try to fix it. We can fix anything. That's not the problem. It's just we'd rather not. And because I'm going to fluff up the trees a little bit, I just want to make sure this paint's on fairly evenly. It doesn't have to be perfectly solid, just a nice even coverage. And after we start working on them, you'll see what I mean on that. Almost got a green. This is a fun little tree, the little spirals. Like I said, I wasn't sure I was going to like that, but it turned out really nice. Okay, so we've got the first. Actually, I'm going to go put just a little more right in here. Not too even. And while that is drying, I'm just going to go back and put my second coat on the stencil. Anything going on, Lindsay?
a lot of people joining us.
So while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk a little bit about my latest release, True Story.
I will put the graphic up.
This was such a fun project. Every year I do a countdown to Christmas. And last year I was thinking about this, and I decided this year to go ahead and do it. And it was such a fun project. I had a lot of heartfelt prayers, and I just wanted to share the true story of Christmas. And I wanted to do something just a little bit different than normal, and a little more fun, a little more whimsical, just something near and dear to my heart. And I was hoping when I released it, that it would become meaningful to others as well. And I want to thank everyone that says so many kind words about it, because I was not real sure it would be as well received as it was, but everybody seems to love it, and I'm truly grateful. So thank you. It's a fun collection, and I think you'll really enjoy painting it. I tried to pull in a lot of love, a lot of whimsy, and just a lot of truth in it. So I called it True Story, and it's all about the Nativity. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Take a peek at it. It would make really a nice Christmas gift. And if you have a painter friend, you could just buy the bundle and let them enjoy the creation of it as well. Now, even after I get the second coat on, if I'm looking at it and I think it needs just a little bit more, I can always go back and add that third coat. Like I said, with light over dark, a lot of times it just needs a little more coverage. And it just takes time. If I had a smaller stencil, I'd probably be finished. With these little teeny tiny stars, I do think pouncing is the best, because if you swirl, you kind of go around, you don't get straight down and get those sharp edges. For the sake of time, we'll just kind of whip through this real quickly. Anything else going on, Lindsay?
No. Oh, I did want to make a comment. We got a huge shipment of decor art last week.
Oh,
so we are restocked on all the Americana. We are only out of one, and that is bright orange. But we are restocked. So even the popular colors are stocked heavily. So be sure to check that out. We know with Hobby Lobby dropping the Americana line, it's been kind of disheartening to everybody, but we do have the full line, and it is available on our website.
Every color, save one.
Except bright orange.
It's not Halloween, so I think we're okay.
For some reason, we don't have bright orange.
Okay, let me get just a little more paint. We're almost there, guys. I could have had part of this already stenciled on. It would have went a little faster. Oh, I keep getting, I'm a messy stenciler. I just am. I was never a very good stenciler, and I always kind of, if it involves stenciling, I just picked something else to do instead of, because I always thought I was a terrible stenciler. But I designed these stencil brushes. They have a soft bristle, and I realized that that was a big part of my problem, was the stiffness of the bristle. I like a soft bristle. It allows me, I can get like an airbrush effect, and it seems to react more like a traditional paintbrush, which maybe is, in my mind, easier for me to deal with. And I love stenciling with these, and they're called Spectacular stencil brushes. Everyone that has used them, I get tremendous feedback. They're fantastic brushes, spectacular brushes. So if you're struggling with stenciling, it might be the brush you're using. I always think if you struggle with something, there's a solution. And there's so much information available on the internet. I think you can probably watch a lot of different videos and tutorials and think, aha, because what works well for me may not work well for you, and you might find somebody else that has just the perfect solution to what, if you're struggling. I keep stenciling over the edge there. I could go back and touch it up, but I think I'm just going to pop that in there. I know I'm a messy stenciler, so that's why I keep the painter's tools handy. And they have all these different areas that I can go in and mask off, get all those little tiny areas really easily. All right, we're on the down slide here.
So Anna says that she loves your stencil brushes.
Ah, thank you. They've made a difference in my life, so I'm glad you enjoy them as well. I even use these because they're soft. I've used them to base coat with as well. They're great to create cheeks because they're so soft. You can dry brush with them. They're great for foliage. You can pounce them and get that fluffy look. And just a little bit more, Lindsay. I think we'll be through this.
Don't forget the trunks of the trees.
Oh, I'm going to do that next. Thank you. Remind me to do these corners again as well. Okay. On these little tree trunks, I wanted to have them a different color. The trees are going to be sort of my focal point. So I'm just taking a little bit of a tan. This is Fawn. And I just want to do those little trunks up. And I said I'm a messy stenciler, so I'm going to kind of maybe prevent a disaster here. And I'm just taking my time. I'm kind of hoping that I only have to do one coat on this. Very light touch. This is a number 3. On this fluffy tree, I'm just going to let it softly blend up into the greenery. These colors are very similar in tone. So from a distance, they just almost look the same. Do you think this is dry enough? I'm going to try to do these corners real quick. And you can see the difference between one coat and 2 coats. And I'll just fill that in real quick. I used to do a lot of sewing, and this kind of reminds me of when you have to pin the pattern onto the fabric and cut it out. It was like, it just takes so much time. But it's such an integral part of the build, so. Get this on here, get these. Like I said, I may go back and put a 3rd coat on if I feel like it needs it, but for now, we'll just let it be that way. Let's go ahead and pull this off. This looks pretty as it is, but it just needs something more. And to me, it looks very stenciled. So I'm going to go in with a small brush. This is a number 2 radical round. Just going to kind of cover up some of those bridges. And I'm just going to fill them in just kind of quietly. Look at the difference between when they have just a little bit of paint on them. And I have noticed when I go back with the chalk paint to fill in the bridges, it seems to blend a little easier. Fewer coats, maybe. This is a matter of personal preference. I don't know that it needs to be done, but I do think it makes a difference if you want it to look more hand painted. And maybe we won't do every single one, just so you can get an idea of what it looks like with that little bit of coverage on those bridges. Because we're going in and adding some decorative painting to this, I think that makes a big difference. Okay, ready to do some fun stuff on here. I thought the trees, because they are kind of in the spotlight, I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of decoration on them or decorative strokes. I'll start with the trunk. I always squirt out way too much paint. You can see I use like an nth of that. I need to. This is, what color is that? Light cinnamon. Just going to go in. I've got my 3/8 inch angle. Just going to go in and put just a little bit of color on the left side and the bottom of the trunk. You can see how fussy I was. I just want some color in there to make it look like there's shading on that tree. Now I'm going in with Plantation Pine. I love Plantation Pine. Such a pretty color. And I know on these trees, I want to add a little bit of shading. On this one, under the layers, I've loaded the toe of my brush with just a little bit of paint. So if I were to go across, it's clean on this end and just the toe has that touch of paint on it. And I'm just going to scoot it kind of like underneath that tree. This is not a soft blend. I'm just kind of pulling it out so that it maybe replicates that look of layers of branches. So I'm just scooting my brush underneath and then pulling it down. And if you are a fussy painter, just let your hair down, just kind of relax, and boom, boom, boom. Look at that. That's so cool. Now on these trees, there's two of them. I decide I want to put this one in the back. So I'm just going to put a little bit of make-believe layering underneath some of these. Have you seen stencils where they have overlays of shading? That's kind of what we're looking at here. Just touches, hints of color. Have fun with this. Don't try to be too particular. Okay, and a little bit there, a little bit there. Layers, I'm doing these layers. I can kind of see where the branches are. I'm just doing horizontal kind of touches of color. Not a big deal. On this little guy over here, I was debating on him. I think I will go in with a little bit of this Plantation Pine. Just kind of swoop it around. Kind of on the bottom side. And I'm using my 18-aught script liner. I should start at the top. Traditionally, my shading is on my highlights are the top left, so my shading is going to be on the right and the bottom. So I can just pull that over and over. You can see how not fussy I am. It's okay. This is very loose. This is not a realistic painting. So don't be too hard on yourself and try to be super particular and exact. I kind of think that if it's a little bit looser, that maybe it looks a little bit better.
You know, that right tree's not exactly found in nature either, so.
You've never seen a spiral tree?
I've never seen a spring tree before. I mean, maybe those grow in the mountains. I don't know.
Okay, so I am going to bump down to maybe a 1/4 inch angle. And picks. Now this is painted, the trees are painted with the acrylic paint, but I'm going to stick with the chalk paint just because that's what I have on my palette. I've got my 1/4 inch angle, and I know I want snow on the tips of these branches. Should I zoom in on this a little bit,
I would
Lindsay?
a little bit, yeah.
Okay. I always go the wrong way.
You got it right.
More?
Yeah, that's the right way. Good.
Okay. Let me know if I go off. So again, I just have a little bit on the toe of my brush, nothing on this little, I call it the heel. And I'm just going to put some on the bottom, just like that. No big deal. I'll start at the bottom because I don't want to get my brush in. And I'm just kind of touching and pulling and just laying snow in. As it dries, I might have to go back and add more. But look at that. I have a fair amount of paint on my brush. I'm not making it even and just kind of random. The amount of pressure that you apply will determine the amount of paint that is added. Kind of just think how snow plops on the trees and kind of, and I can make those little bottom edges, even though the tree is nice and smooth, I can kind of do my own thing. And I can always go back and add more. But just look at that. Isn't that a pretty little tree? What a difference. Keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple. I'm going to try to do this. I should get my little brush. I want a little bit of snow on the top of that. Oh yeah, look at that. Isn't that sweet? Okay, for the pine tree, this is a number 8 filbert. I've just dampened it a little bit. And the reason I dampen it is to help the paint smooth on a little bit easier. I'm going to, gosh, I'm making a mess. I'm going to load some paint on my filbert. Now, with a filbert, I don't know if we can see it. If I touch down, I get that little smile, frown shape. So I can go in and just lightly kind of add some snow on that tree. Just going to do this left side for right now. Just a light touch. And we'll put some up here.
Bonnie says that she absolutely loves your designs. The extra little touch you do really makes each piece special.
Thank you very much. A little bit of paint makes a big difference. Keep it simple. And I think for years we've all painted with so much focus on all this little detail that it's, to me, it's like a painting vacation to loosen up and just have some fun. And it's kind of amazing the difference it makes. Okay, so I know these, got to remember where my trunk is. I'm going to put some snow on these trees. Just make sure that everything's not perfect and like in a row. Kind of stagger almost like bricks so that you get that look that this tree is going to be in front. If I push harder, I get a bigger plop of snow. Now, if I mess up, I can go back with that black green and touch it up. Look at that pretty little tree. Now, on this little spiral tree, I'm going to add, same thing, just going to add a little bit of that sheepskin. just on that top edge.
Bonnie says she tried your technique with the filbert painting pine cones. Took a few tries, but it works well.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Mike's joined us on YouTube, and he says that looks so rich, just elegant.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Just want to make that little bit of snow show up on there. One thing about the chalk paint, because it is heavier bodied, you may need to thin it down just a little bit. Kind of stand back and look at it and see where it needs to be just a little bit heavier. Okay, now on this one, I want to divide that tree up a little bit more. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the background color, which is black green. And my, let's see, I want a bigger angle. Maybe this will work. 3/8 inch angle. And I want to move this out of the way because it's kind of hard working with a big plaque. Okay, trying to figure out, sorry, I don't mean to make you. Just going to shade between them. Make that back tree a back tree. Look how that separates that out. Isn't that amazing? Now I can go back, that I have the trees divided up. I can go back with a little bit of that sheepskin. Right here where I covered up some of that snow, I can really kind of enhance those little branches. I'm not real fond of this right here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that black green and boom. Fix that up and go in with a little bit of. Okay, that kind of bothered me. I need something there, but that was not the right thing. If I need to go back and maybe add just a little more of that plantation pine to add a little more depth in there, I can just pop some of that in there. This is where you get to play and have a little bit of fun. But look how that tree stands out. I think it looks great. Over here, even though there was no stencil that went out that far, I think it looks a little lopsided. I'm just going to add a little snow over there, make that tree just a little more even. And maybe just a little bit. Don't want to forget those trunks. Add a little bit of snow on the trunks or highlights or whatever it is. How pretty is that? So even though the stencil is gorgeous, adding this little bit of detail just builds that up, builds up the interest, absolutely makes that stencil pop. I had some white over here on the edge. I told you I was a messy stenciler. This is where you can go back, touch up all those little areas, fill in the bridges. I'm going to swap it out. This is the one I did last night. And I did go back and do the bridges. See what a huge difference that makes. And it's just a little bit of
Zoom
pink.
out
Zoom out.
if you're done.
Okay.
Yeah. There you
Other
go.
way.
So they can
Other
show
way?
the other, that you were right the first time. There you go.
Okay.
So they can see the whole thing.
I did see you can always go back and add just a little bit more. Okay, so last night I went back and I filled all the bridges in, but I told you I always forget something. Now right here, I need a bigger brush. I'm going to go back with my little number 2 round. It's such a perfect, it has a little tiny point. I think this makes a big difference, especially if you want it to look a little hand painted. Okay, what do you think, Lindsay?
Looks good.
Should we call that finished?
Yeah.
What a great gift. Oh my goodness. It takes such a little bit of time, and you probably could add a little bit of personalization on it. Maybe, you think? I don't know that you would need to. When I originally wanted to do this, I was going to do like the ornaments red and the stars yellow, but I think this is perfect. I did go back and connect some of the letters, like in the letter O. There's just really a few of them. One here, the R. And again, that's a matter of personal preference. But I think it's such a pretty design. The stencil is beautiful. But after I did it, I really loved it. Contrast. Make sure that the light and the dark is there. But it all pulls together beautifully.
Let me flip the camera.
Okay, I think we're finished.
Okay.
Any questions?
So Sandy says she's loving this whole process. Thank you. Mary Jane says very pretty. She loves it. Mary Ann says this is such a beautiful piece. Love it. Phyllis says, nice. I like the contrast.
Thank you. And I think using that black green really makes a difference as opposed to black. Black and white's kind of a big thing, but this is a kind of a cream, and with the green, I think it's just a little more festive. I thought too about splattering it, putting a little snowfall in it, but honestly, I think there's enough design in it that it doesn't need that. Well, see, I keep finding things. I'm going to go back and find one more. And I lost it just like that. Okay. It's kind of like, you see that one more thing that needs done, I always have to go back and touch it up. So are we good?
We're good. Are we going to be here next Tuesday, or are you doing the video instead?
I just the cutest little snowman. I think I've got a video. I'm working on that. You guys are going to love it. He's just adorable. I thought he was cute in my mind, but I painted him up and I loved how he turned out. So I'm excited to share that with you.
So next Tuesday, there will be a video instead of a live, just because it's the day after Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales.
Yeah,
so
I think we're going to be kind of busy.
we're going to be busy, but there will be content that will go live that day on the YouTube channel. It will be a new design. So
yeah, and check your emails because we do have sales coming up for the Black Friday weekend, Thanksgiving. Any?
It's Friday, right?
Friday.
Friday, yeah. So the email will go out Friday. So be sure to check your inbox. And of course, there will be posts on Facebook. And there's different sales on Cover Distributing as opposed to CD Stencils. So check both sites.
Yep.
So
yeah, good deals on both of them. You don't want to miss out.
Okay.
Anything else?
Phyllis says a piece is never done.
This is true. I thought last night I was finished, but then today, yeah, there's things to do. So, well, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's always fun to create something new and share it. And I do appreciate your input. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for future videos, just put them in the comments. We read everything. I think it's fun to keep it simple. And remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. So I want to wish you, Lindsay and I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, filled with many blessings and family. And if you're sharing across the miles, just wonderful memories. So thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to our next painting adventure together. Bye-bye.